So if you allow me to get back to that Al Gore example, we must quickly mobilize, etc., etc., the whole paragraph of abstract things, and then there's another paragraph of abstract things, and another, until finally we get to a concrete example of Mahatma Gandhi. So, as much as possible, please be concrete. Describe things you can see in real life and provide real life examples. This, I think, is one of the cardinal rules of public speaking. Try to be concrete. Secondly, that thing about being probably way too concrete than necessary. This is a thing that plagues engineering expert presentations, right? And I know, people listening to the presentation are supposed to understand what you say, but truth is they often don't. I once read a research paper that analyzed feedback forms from specialized medical conferences, and in 59% of those feedback forms, comments on clarity were found. Oh, oops, passive voice. There were comments on clarity. This is the single most commented subject in those feedback forms. And a major don't from that feedback was identified. Don't use jargon and difficult to pronounce words, because people in the audience, even though they are technical experts, they are medical doctors, they are having hard times to understand those words. This is the single most frequent complaint at specialized conferences. Jargon. Don't be too specific. Don't be more specific when it is necessary. A bunch of climate scientists put together this nice little list of words which have different meanings for the scientists and for the general public. And when the scientist says positive trend, for him or her, it means just any upward trend. But for the general public, that would mean a good trend, right? When the scientist says aerosol, for most people that would mean an aerosol can. But for the scientist, of course, that would mean a tiny atmospheric particle. So, as much as possible, try to communicate in a language that your audience can understand. I know many people trying to be precise because this is the way they are trying to protect themselves from being misquoted, for example, or maybe misunderstood. But actually, if you're trying to protect yourself, this is not a cooperative communication. That means that you and the audience are not on the same side. And perhaps difficult to understand language is not the problem in your presentation. Probably something else is. You probably need to work on your goals and the whole structure of your presentation. So don't be too specific. Another life hack would be to compare things to everyday objects. I think we all know how Steve Jobs used to do that. 5 gigabytes equals 1,000 songs in your pocket, right? Very easy to understand. Of course it's imprecise. Of course 1,000 songs could mean any amount of gigabytes. But this is a way to trying to be more understandable. And you might say both 5 gigabytes and 1,000 songs. He had to use 2 different packs of gum because what is a pack of gum? It's a bit imprecise. Still, an effort to make what he talks about more understandable. And one final word, please limit the amount of acronyms. I don't know if you know what all those things mean. I'm a finance guy, I do, and this is what I hear, like 33% of all the presentation are those words. EBITDA, ROI, ROE, compound aggregate growth rate, in case you're wondering what it is. So please don't use acronyms for infrequent phrases. If there's just one time you use that word, try to pronounce the whole sequence. Don't use more than 2 acronyms per sentence. And this is my discipline, I try not to use more than 4 frequent acronyms for the whole presentation. If you are creating acronyms, try to make them pronounceable, like, I don't know, STARS or FSDO. And finally, if you're a company, an agency, or a department that has a common abbreviation, like, for example, I used to work for a department called the ICU, which doesn't stand for Intensive Care Unit. In case you don't know, that means Internal Control Unit. Just don't say ICU all the time, use we as ICU, think this or that. So don't try to be too precise. Use everyday words, compare things to everyday objects, and don't go crazy with acronyms. They are often the enemy.